about planning or controlling it for years and years. I expect you, as a rate-paying person, that you do this. You cannot leave Joburg to die, and it's nearly there, number one. But I feel sorry for the CEO because he has no way to plan for the amounts of demand. And then the other thing I want to know is, I want to know your plan to control the influx of people. Or if you're going to allow it wholesale, then what are you going to do to make sure that they have the infrastructure that doesn't mess everybody else up that's been here forever?
Thank you, ma'am. Coming to you. I can't forget my friend here. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
You don't
It's
want
fine.
the mic. Give it to us.
No, he's passing the question.
Okay.
Right?
Promise before you speak. Put your right hand
won't
up.
swear.
Okay, you won't swear.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming to listen to the community here, what they've got to say. I heard what you addressed about the bowling and everything. Are we going to do something about the bowling? Because I haven't had water for 25 days. I got above 3,800 Rand. 3,800 Rand. And I haven't had water for 25 days. Oh, don't worry, it's normal. All are getting it. And another thing is, we went to the Joburg meeting when we had a big issue last time. To Joburg, we had with some guy we met there, big shot, wherever he is. And he came up with a plan that we fill the reservoir higher than 50%, which happened the next day. And he said, next day we'll get water. And we did get water. And the pressure was strong. Why didn't they keep up to that plan that they already put in place? Because the plan they had when we went for the meeting, it worked. We had water the next day, shower was booming out and everything was happening for 2, 3, 4 days. It was nice. Then we start breaking down again. Then it's a building, like you say, the water meters that we're paying for air. Once they stop the water, when that water comes on again, it's a lot of air. The meter spins double, triple the speed. When I went to Joburg to complain about it, they said I must pay 5,000 Rand for an inspector to come have a look at my meter. And they're going to look at my meter and say, there's nothing wrong with your meter. But when the air comes through, that's when the high speed comes up. What are we going to do? Is this going to be just a meeting just to talk? Are we going to do something about it and just not talk? Are we going to do something about it?
Mr. Mayor, I absorbed all the swearing from this guy. So you owe me one on that one. Always this. Just to say, we went to Joburg Water in June with these people from the Royal Enclosure. He's reporting on that. Gloucester Road. Yeah. So an intervention brought water the next day, but it slowly disappeared. Yeah. Quick.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This one goes to the CEO. Mr. CEO, I'd like to talk to you and then look at you in your eye. I say, my understanding is that you didn't see this one coming. You didn't see this problem coming. That's why we're here. Are you the right person for this job? Are you really the right person for this job? Because if you're the right person for this job, you could have anticipated. You could have anticipated to say, hey, there's going to be a problem. In 2-3 years' time, I'm going to have a problem. What do I do about it? Now you start mitigating the issues. Please answer me on that. Give people chance, those who can do the job better. Thank you.
All right. So I think we've covered the first 10. Should I take the rest of the questions or would you like to start to respond? Take the rest. Okay. We'll start here. 1, 2, 3. Don't smile. I'm not going to give you extra chance. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? Mpumi? Yeah, we're taking... Okay, ask one more. Take one more question. We'll take answers, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, CEO, I lived in Best Valley for...
Order.
I lived in Best Valley for 38 years. Everything was hunky-dory when we moved there. Things changed over the years. Facilities have deteriorated rapidly over the last few years, and I decided to move to Bruma, thinking I'm going to move to a better area, but it seems to be worse. I still visit Best Valley, and I go there and I see the leaks, and I see this, what we're talking of, illegal housing. My house was sold with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Today, there are about 15 bedrooms and about 12 toilets in that property. I don't know how they got away with it. Similarly, my father-in-law's house down the road was 4 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs. The first day the keys were given to the new owner, it had 32 door frames that they installed and rooms divided. Every kitchen, every bathroom was also divided. So this is the illegal housing that we're talking about. On Bez Valley, on Saturday, I witnessed sewer running down the curve, right down maybe about 2 kilometers, coming around into Bezuidenhout Avenue. And then I reported it to the owner of the property and he followed up. I think it stopped. But what's happening is the sewer guys come, they repair a section, then the other section, they push from one side and push it into another section, and the balance of the sewer starts leaking the following day. So they're not doing a proper job with what they are doing. It's a half-day job, and then they come and do it during overtime on a weekend when they get more money. But they still don't finish the job. Because on Monday when I went back, another sewer leak on the same line. Similarly in Bruma, on the corner of Marcia and Hanspiro, the water is leaking like crazy for how many months now? They fix up one section, they come to the middle of the road, they fix up that section, they don't fix it really, but they leave a whole big pothole in the middle of the road. And then it moves, they don't do the whole line. We know that pipes are really deteriorating for a number of years. They have to be upgraded. Since the new regime took over, it's about 30 years, they haven't done anything about upgrading pipes that were about 100 years old. This has to be done immediately.
Okay, thank you. Now, those properties we refer to, 38 families there. They're paying same rates as us. That's low-hanging fruits, Mayor, that we have to deal with. And we must get SARS involved in it.
Thank you. As we said, we want to appreciate that the community gave us an opportunity to come and engage with them on the water issues. We have given an indication that we're going to try and do a project so that we rezone you to the Uvel reservoir. In that way, it will help us to immediately start getting water into the area. We've started with the project, the teams are working behind the scenes, and we are pushing for a month's period. However, we'll have to keep you updated on a regular basis. I hope you are fine with that. As an intervention, it's not as a permanent solution, it's an intervention so that at least there's access to water. Number 2, the gentleman up there, you're more than welcome to come and work with us. But what we will do will allow you to nominate and give us about 5 people who are willing to work with us so that as we report back, there's somewhere we're reporting and they can share the information. And of course, the water committee is already there. They will also form part of the team. On the technical side, because it helps on the technical side to understand some of these things and the challenges that we have. But we have no choice. All of us must resolve this problem, and government must ensure that this problem is resolved and there's water going into our taps. There's also an issue that we had raised about the project. I think Nchabeni will give you the overview of where the project is going to be, how we're going to do it, so that there's everlasting solution in the area. There's been weaknesses, of course, in terms of investing sufficiently into infrastructure maintenance and refurbishment. So we have taken that decision as this government when we passed our budget in June, that we are going to allocate into the infrastructure departments so that they can start focusing it. We've moved our maintenance budget, which has been hovering between 4 to 5%. We've pushed it to 7.5%, with an intention that in the next financial year we'll push it to 8.5%, with an ambitious plan of getting to 10. The same way we are going to be pushing our capital expenditure. It's currently sitting at about 8 billion, but our ambition next year is to push it to 10 billion with an outer year of about 15 billion, because we believe once our capital expenditure could be at about 15 billion, we stand a better chance to respond to infrastructure challenges. You know that as metros, we must raise our own money. We don't really get sufficient from national government. We only get about 13 to 15% of national grants that comes through. So that's what we're going to be doing. I think the matter of Geraldine and Bruma, it comes from the not Brixton, I'm already that aside, barrier system. So we'll have to ensure that it's whatever interventions that needs to be done is done, and water is directed in that area. So accountability, as the chair, somebody spoke about accountability. In that committee, we will then report regularly on where we are so that you can hold us accountable. And in fact, this meeting in itself is you as communities holding ourselves as the executive accountable, because at the end of the day, you are the customers, you are the ratepayers. I'm going to then address the billing issue, which I think I need to agree with you, because the best way of dealing with it is for me to bring the teams from the revenue department. We go directly into our account, your account as a customer, analyze and say, but yes, here we need to do reversals, we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, so that we get your account to be proper. Because it doesn't make sense for your account to be sitting at 8,000 when in fact you have not been consuming any water for the last 29 days. It's okay. It means we might have estimated your account, it's not actuals. So let's address that problem and bill you for the consumption, not bill you for the consumption that you never had. So can we agree on that? And you will give me a date suitable. I'll bring the teams. I know next week is a short week because there's a holiday in between, the 24th. So it might destabilize because others have a short week, and then we can then use that other week where the teams can be here, customer by customer, bill by bill, we deal with it. Where the city must do reversals, our credit management system does allow for reversals. Our credit management policy does allow that where you have overbilled, you must do the necessary reversals and address the customer issues. So we will do that part, especially on your bills in relation to the water bills. But we will check not only water, we'll check rates, we'll check water, we'll check electricity and sewer, so that we look at the bill holistically, and where we have overcharged, we reach an agreement. Where you owe us, we then reach an agreement. You sign off on how you can pay us, because there will be instances where there are customers that are behind, they are in arrears, and how do we help them? Then you've got your pensioners, where we've got special rebates that we must then communicate to them. Some of them are not aware that they qualify have in Johannesburg. We'll have to address the decline in service delivery because we have a responsibility to ensure that the quality of services we provide is proper for our people. The collection of waste, the sewer, provision of water and electricity. We must at all times try to provide quality services. But the challenges that we have had over time must be corrected so that moving forward, we're not giving shady services to our people and our communities. And I wanted to respond to the gentleman. When we appointed Mukwebo, he had served in Joburg Mayor as the COO before he became the CEO. And we are convinced that he has the necessary skills and expertise to do this job. Even our National Department of Water has also affirmed what we thought of him, that he has the necessary skills. So he's the right man for the job. But this man must then be assisted by government with the necessary resources for him to execute his job. So we then put in place and we said, as part of our infrastructure plan, we are going to invest at least 3 billion annually, which is still not sufficient in terms of the water infrastructure. It's old, it requires refurbishments, and there's a lot of leaks. But we said, let's expand the current 1.2 billion to at least 3 billion, meaning that we must also go out to raise that capital. And secondly, to collect revenue as much as we can so that we can support the efforts of the Joburg Water in helping us. Yes, thanks. We are also raising money from the financial markets to help us speed up the infrastructure program. So there's a plan that we have put in place that speaks to the entire Johannesburg. We've got challenges also in informal settlements where they connect illegally into the system, which puts a strain into the system. So we've decided, as part of mitigating that problem, we are going to do boreholes in some of the informal settlement to reduce the pressure and to deal with issues of illegality. So that's what we are going to do, so that the pressure on the system is reduced from illegal connections, which is a problem. But Joburg Water also has a responsibility to monitor regularly pipes that burst, because you have a pipe that can burst today and takes a week before we attend to it, of clean water. I was making an example of the 5 days one that I saw. So there's also a 2-year one that we must deal with. And once it happens, we're losing a lot of clean water. Our current water losses are sitting at about 36 to 40%, which means the money we spend on bulk purchases, we're actually losing a lot of it. So we need to close the gap by monitoring burst pipes and immediately respond to. You are also right. We have to deal with our workforce, because our workforce tend to wait for what is called overtime, which is crippling our system and taking more money from infrastructure projects into employee costs, which remains a difficult problem. We have taken a view that as part of the work we are doing is to deal directly with employees, so that employees of the city should also get to a point where they understand that they are here to do the job and they must support the efforts of their employer. So that's what we're doing, because yes, the tactical always been workers will not go out on a call that is made on Friday, 11 o'clock, but wait for 6 o'clock because overtime would have kicked in. And those are the tricks. I saw it. They were not aware that they were coming to fix leaking pipe outside of my yard. So they came at 1 o'clock, proper during the day. Wara wara looked, wara wara wara. They left. Ow. Suddenly, I think I was preparing to have my tea, because I drink a lot of tea. It helps me to distress. There was water there. So I'm preparing to drink my tea and watch a movie on Netflix. There's a truck outside. When I looked at the time, it was around 9:30 to 10 at night. And it took them less than an hour to fix. And it was fixed. It was closed, proper, everything done. And they left. So they were not even aware that I'm the executive mayor of Johannesburg. And I chose not to tell them. And I went to see them and gave them some coffee and asked questions. Why do you come at this time? No, we had a lot of calls to deal with. But it's stories. So we need to get our workforce to be committed to the work that we do. So you'll give me the date so that we do the billing. We need development planning to work with us to be very stringent. Because, you know, in the townships, I grew up in Soweto. Now when you get into Soweto, a 4-roomed house has been turned into a 20-room house with over 20 families, with 1 dustbin. Is it called a dustbin? 1 dustbin. You are lucky if they have an extra 3 more toilets. They have 1 toilet. Hygiene. And it then leads to what we call illegal dumping in the townships, because there's only 1 dustbin. It's get filled in a day, and we only collect once a week. Now, we're trying to see how development planning can start understanding that you can't allow structures to expand, but the infrastructure is not expanding. Transformers in Soweto during winter, it gets worse. They blow up, they explode. They're the right explode. Ne? They explode all the time in Soweto, because all these houses, which are now 20 rooms, they're connecting heaters. And the transformer can't take up the load, and it explodes. Then suddenly there's no electricity in the townships. So I'm addressing these issues because I wanted to give a global response on what we are doing now as the city to respond to the challenges that are there in our communities. And unfortunately, the MMC of Development Planning was with us in Ebony Park. She couldn't join us for this meeting because we are also addressing those issues of planning, because if we don't address them, we are going to have a serious problem in Johannesburg. Lastly, as I sit down, and he will deal with more technical issues, we're experiencing an influx in Johannesburg. We're experiencing at least 10,000 people, at least, an average of 100,000 people coming to Johannesburg annually. And some don't even have plans where they're going to stay. Some don't even have jobs. And they're coming to Joburg with the hope of finding greener pastures, opportunities, and jobs. And we are getting at least 3,000 foreigners descending into Johannesburg, at least on a monthly basis. And some come here with no plan. And now you then see informal settlements popping up. We are sitting with 319, a total of 319 informal settlements in Johannesburg. And 70% of those are illegal and undocumented. But they hide with South African citizens. Now, that's the challenges that we have. but we have no excuse as this team. We must find a better solution for you to have your water. And that is why we are making a proposal. We'll rezone it and take it to the Uval reservoir so that there's water flow in your houses and we can move forward. We're making a proposal to meet with you. Week after next, we'll agree on the date and time to deal with the billing issues. The rest of the issues will continue to work with you and the committee that we have put in place. MD, if you want to add on technical issues.
Thanks. To add on the technical issues, because there was a question asked around, we hear the short term that we are working on. What is it that we are going to do for the medium to long term? So that as the city, we all don't find ourselves here. If there's one thing that we must all agree is that...
People, can we have order, please? We've asked questions. Pay attention. We have a secretary, people that we've identified to ask questions. So let him finish.
Yeah.
Sorry to you.
So the key thing that we need to do differently is the investment in our infrastructure. Yes, there are all other things for bylaw enforcement that are very key and so on. But from water, talking from water point of view, we need to invest in our infrastructure. It is for that reason that it took us about a year engaging with key stakeholders about the turnaround plan for water in Johannesburg. For it to be approved by council in July last year, it was a work that was happening, consulting National Treasury, DWS, and other stakeholders up to a point where council agreed or approved that they need to be a different approach for water infrastructure in Joburg, where that investment needs to come through. So the fact that was approved by council, it gives us comfort. Yes, this is just the beginning, because it's a 10-year plan, as I've indicated earlier, which is looking at a number of things. One, I can give you an example with our water network. You may be aware or you may not be aware that the water network for Johannesburg, you are talking about 12,500 kilometers for water network only. Annually, ideally, we're supposed to be replacing in the region of just under 200 kilometers every year to keep it current. You can go back in our annual report, you'll find that we're not replacing at that rate. So this turnaround plan is addressing that, to say we need to invest at the pace that will be able to assist us. And on the pipe replacement, our major focus as we're embarking in this journey, year one, which is the year that started now, yes, we're not yet where we are aiming, but we are going to be replacing 85 kilometers, which is a step in the right direction, considering that last year before, we were replacing about 20 kilometers to 50 kilometers. So there is that uptick. The key issues on the water side, we need to replace AC pipes and steel pipes that you find in CBDs. We need to replace AC pipes and steel pipes, because that's where we lose a lot of water. That's where you find that Tim will put a clamp here, it's going to burst down the line, because it's the same old line. So we need to replace. So our focus on that turnaround plan is to deal with AC pipe, which we have got almost 1,500, and to deal with steel pipes, as well, the small steel pipes that we find in CBD. So those are a major thing that we're focused on in the medium to long term, including, of course, in the short to medium term, making sure that the reservoir, all of them that are in phase one, which includes Alexander Park, we are refurbishing them. And the reason why we are doing this link for Yeoville as well, it's a link that's going to help us also to be able to bypass the reservoir now in November, December, when we're supposed to start with the refurbishment. Because if we want to refurbish now, or if we want to start refurbishing that reservoir under the current situation, we are going to have a problem. because the bypass will never be able to carry the area, considering the work that we need to do and the time that it's going to take. So the other point, residents, that I want to raise is that our focus is on infrastructure, yes, but also we are looking at alternative sources of water that we need to start thinking about in the city of Johannesburg. And all these things, you can find them in our turnaround plan, because that turnaround plan is a public document because it's a council document. We have appointed a transitional advisor through National Treasury now in April, where they are looking at effluent reuse so that we can be able to have more water as well. It's a process that they are busy with that work, and they'll be able to tell us whether is it feasible or not by May next year, so that if it's feasible, at Northern Works, we are aiming to have a 100 megaliter plant, which looks at really augmenting the water that we get from rainwater and the water that we have in the city. And of course, as Executive indicated, the issue of borehole, we are looking at that as part of that plan as well. We have appointed vets, the vets enterprise. They are assisting us with drilling boreholes, with their partner, of course, drilling boreholes in former settlements. But there's an assignment that we've given them as well to say, those systems that struggles, check for us, is there a possibility of us that we can be able to augment into our system through the underground water. It's part of the work that they are currently doing, looking at the system like Alex Park to check whether is it feasible for us to be able to have a good yield that can assist us to augment what we have already. So I thought I should indicate those few technical issues that we are working on. Thanks.
Okay, the next block of questions, right? 1 minute.
Thank you very much. We have a system of reporting faults. We report faults, they get closed, no action. But there's a big elephant in the room. We are unable to determine underground leaks. I might be wrong, but I believe there is no thorough system in the city to find and fix underground leaks. Please, can you do something about that? The second issue is our pressure. I lived in the same place for 39 years. The pressure was always about 3 bars indefinitely. Then it dropped to 2. Now, in the middle of the night, in a suburban area, it's a half a bar. There's something fundamentally wrong. That's a Berea Reservoir at Bruma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I pose my question, I'm very unhappy with some of the answers from our mayor. I hear a lot of blaming of poor people coming into the city, including foreigners. I hear solutions about boreholes when we know that mostly borehole water is not drinkable. So I hear answers about getting loans on the market, which sounds to me like putting the city in debt, which we will ultimately have to pay for again. So I'm extremely unhappy with many of the answers that have been provided. No mention of housing plans. What are you going to do with all the people that you're planning to punish for the absence of planning and the absence of stopping the illegal building in the first place? All I hear is punishment of us as citizens and particularly of poor people, and I'm very unhappy with that. But my question is around the whole issue that hasn't been raised at all of subcontracting and the elephant in the room, which is corruption and the question of the construction mafias, which we know are already in Joburg and involved in city activities. but in particular, the small subcontractors who have been brought in large numbers to deal particularly with electricity and with water. And my question is, when are you going to bring the services back into public delivery by employees who are accountable, who care, and who know the system, instead of a multitude of subcontractors that open up the possibility for more and more small-scale and big-scale corruption? That's my question.
Follow up on the question of approaching the capital markets to fund infrastructure developments and refurbishments and so on. Sorry. So, Mayor, the one thing that is as predictable as the sun rising tomorrow is that there will be people who come and settle in our city. That's inevitable. We can't stop it. We can't go back to the days of influx control and the DOMPAS and pass laws and so on. It's not going to happen. So whatever the big reality we have to take cognizance of is that it's going to cost money to put in place the infrastructure that we need. Where will the money come from? There's two sources. One, we place further costs on the citizens, on the people who live in and work here, or we approach we borrow that money from somewhere. Now, it's my contention that it's not necessarily a bad thing to be in debt, especially if the debt is going to fund infrastructure. That pays itself off over time. People pay for what they consume, and that's a good thing. So, but I think the city has a closed mind to what is possible. And in this regard, I want to just point to one possibility, if I may, Mayor, and to ask you whether it's something you would be prepared to push for. It's this. Currently, the Municipal Finance Management Act doesn't allow a municipality to go directly to the Reserve Bank and borrow money. The banks do. Our banks do. They get the advances from the Reserve Bank, and they get it at prime. When we want to borrow money, in other words, the city wants to borrow money, you have to go to what you call the capital markets. You have to go to the big financiers, and of course, there's a premium on top of the interest, the rates that they charge. So I want to ask you, Mayor, if it is a possibility, if we see the possibility to get cheaper money by amending the Municipal Finance Management Act, is that something you are prepared to drive? Because it's somebody, it needs a champion.
And I think that was contained in our proposal around the white paper process in terms of municipal financing. Whose hand was next? Yamna? Yeah, we're coming, don't worry.
Good evening. There's something that people don't understand. Protecting people that are coming in the country and making revenue that was supposed to go to the municipality and using the water and using the electricity, having 30 rooms in one premises and not paying for that water and lights and still protecting those people. So we as women, we want to volunteer to help you to find those leaks and to help you to find those people who don't pay light and water in our areas because we know them.
Okay.
You? Good evening, Mayor. With respect, Mayor, I'm from Kanya College. We've been a partner of the city for 25 years. We rooted in the anti-apartheid struggle and we still do social justice work. I concur very much with the feelings that's been raised by Comrade Jane. There's a discomfort with blaming poor people, which is supposed to have been part of the transformation in the past 30 years. So I think we must take responsibility for that. We're in the same street as the Gauteng High Court. We work with children, with youth. The problem we have with water is the low pressure and the threat now of potential fires in the city. What is the interim plan that the city is going to take up in terms of our situation right now? Because ASIB has come, they can't even test the sprinklers because of the water pressure. Outsurance has just ditched a lot of the buildings in the city, including ours, to say, we're not going to stand surety for you anymore, after us being insured with them for I don't know how long. And we pay rent in the area as well. So we pay levies to the fashion district, we pay for security, we pay for crime prevention, etc. So this is a big issue for us because of the threat to us. The second thing, Mayor, is the question of, you distracted me, is the question of the buses. In which city in the world can anybody just set up a bus station? In our small street in the fashion district, there are 2 cross-border bus stations that have just been set up. When we raised this initially, people said to us, this cross-border trade brings 40 million rand to the city, and therefore we need them. But why don't we set up a proper station? So like anywhere else in the world, people can go to a station, because you have next to it, traffic lights are not working, schools, children trying to cross, bus stations, buses, carting of obstructing the traffic, etc. It just leads to more chaos. So I agree with you, there's lawlessness, but I think it's been with the collusion of the city's officials. And I worked for SAMU before. We can ask the unions to be part of bringing about a change, and we must, because the working class must be part of the change.
Thank you.
Hello. I just want to know, you said that Berea is not a problem at the moment compared to Alexander, right? The water stopped at 3 o'clock today, the same as last week, and we only got water back on Monday. Monday, the level was sitting at 77%, and as the days went, the level's gone down. So are we only going to get water again now on Monday?
All right, the next. We've done that side. Come. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have said a lot of things and told us about problems, not solutions. You are talking about people building 30 rooms in a small area. Right now, as I'm talking to you, somebody else is also building. So whatever you do right now is not going to help in the next 5 years, because people are going to keep on building. I also want to know from you, what are you going to do with the present buildings that are there? Are you going to demolish them?
People will need shorter questions.
Yeah, sorry, just directed to the CEO. I don't know if I've missed the point, but when are we going to get water? Because we've been 25 days now without water, not a drop of water in our taps. And now what has happened is you're telling us with the Joburg connection to the Alexander Park Reservoir, it will be in a month's time. Does that mean we're going for 60 days without water, or are we going to get it next week? That's my question.
All right. Good afternoon. I just want to represent the youth, basically. So I have a question to the CEO. Water shedding basically began at the late October 2024, and you say that you invested 1.4 million in that, and now you want to increase to 1.7 million, but it just has, from the October 2024, it has just become worse. So what guarantees that this 1.7 billion is going to make a difference? And my second question goes to, I don't think you're considering the youth. These girls who go on their periods for days, and how do you expect them to wash their uniforms? How do you expect them to bath? And second, if you were actually doing your job, you would have known that the reservoirs were not working long time. And when last did you do maintenance? When? It's a problem. So can you please fix that?
Okay, after you.
Okay, afternoon. To the CEO, for me it's not going to be a question, but I'm just raising this. We've got schools, primary schools and high schools, which whenever we don't have any water in this place, they go out. Now they are losing out on their education. Can you please, and we also have old age homes where these people are taking chronic tablets on a daily basis. Can you maybe, by the time you're still waiting for whatever plan you are doing, can you make sure that all those people, they do get water? Thank you.
Richard Francis, Cleveland CPF Chairman. We have, over the last 6 months, identified people that are stealing water infrastructure. We've identified people with illegal connections. We've identified today people that are purchasing privately water from the water tankers that are meant for the community. My question is we've set up a beautiful memorandum of understanding with City Power. If we catch them, City Power will come and open up criminal cases. Is it possible to do the same with Johannesburg Water, please?
Hi, good evening everyone. And the appreciation from the mayoral team for the visit today. Indeed, it has been a learning session. Just a request. With all the challenges that we have, it would be great if we can see a bigger and more commitment in terms of addressing all the water leaks. Because it's not good for the optics in as much as there's work done in addressing all the issues with the infrastructure and everything. When you go around and you find all these fresh drinkable water that is flowing down our streets. So it would be best that we address that. There might be seen to be a commitment to that. That is my first point. We've also been educated here with all how the reservoirs are working, because we get these daily updates as it relates to the Uval, Beria, and Alexandra reservoirs. Now we've been educated as to how it works, because we get excited when it gets around 2:30 and we think all is well, and we still don't understand why there's no water. Now, we then want to get an understanding and the appreciation of that, such that maybe if we can overnight close these reservoirs such that they build up capacity to get to the above 50%, which we are made to believe is the healthier ratio in terms of water supply in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd just like to say thanks for coming out today. I'm sure you understand our frustration as a community around not having water for over 20 days. That being said, perhaps you don't understand. I would like to point the question of when was the last time you didn't have water running in your taps. Second, I also want to echo some of the points that came up to ask, why should we trust you? This is not a new issue. It's not a problem that suddenly arose overnight. It's been building for years. So why is this time going to be different? Thanks.
Hi, good evening. I just want to introduce Rhodes Park to the discussion and conversation of water losses because the park is connected to the Joburg water grid, and there's been, I just want to introduce Rhodes Park to the discussion and conversation on water losses because the park is connected to the Joburg water grid, and there's been a underground water irrigation system put as part of a centenary celebration that hasn't been maintained and is now leaking horrendously all over the place. And City Parks and the depot here is not able, this is the park I'm talking about, is not able to cope with the leaks and understand that Joburg Water doesn't have jurisdiction within the park. So I want to just recommend or suggest that we close the water to the park and make a reconnection to essential services to minimize the impact on the grid and Joburg Water, because it's a mass supply or a mass, am I too loud now? Or mass distribution. Thank you.
Cool. Good evening, Mr. CEO. So you've mentioned that the Alexander Park is going to undergo refurbishments. I just want to understand from your side, because that tower needs to be flushed out, the repair work done, and then restoration. How long is that going to take? Because I know you've said there's an intervention measure for Yeovil, for the high-lying areas, but those of us then on the lower side, whilst this repair work is done, is this going to be a rinse and repeat? How long are we expected to be without water? And what interventions is going to be put in place whilst that repair work is done? Thank you.
Good evening, Executive Mayor. I work in an area of human trafficking. And we know all over the place we have these mushrooming guest houses, which are literally brothels, and they are said to be sex trafficking hubs. In the city center also, where we have all these buildings coming up, I mean people, illegal buildings, they are human trafficking hubs. This is a subject that is not spoken about, and I'd like to put it on your table. We have 50 to 100,000 people annually trafficked. Most are women, most are children, and they are trafficked into the sex trade. So I'd like an answer from you. Thank you.
Okay. The Kensington Community Association brought a list of photographs of leaks. So if you could take a screenshot of that, it would be useful. That was today, yeah.
So I'm going to start with the question that was asked to say, or submission to say, we need to look at insourcing or having the work done internally rather than using the contractors. Yes, skilled contractors. Residents, I can assure you, in Johannesburg Water, the day-to-day maintenance is done by Johannesburg Water, not by contractors. We have all those small trucks that we see them up and down. It's the employee of Johannesburg Water. There's no contractor who handles day-to-day maintenance. The contractors that assist us with maintenance, you'll find them at our plants, wastewater treatment works, of course, dealing with specialized things that they're assisting our employee. So our maintenance in the main is done in-house. We don't use contractors. The question relating to the poor pressure in the inner city, we will need to take your details so that we can have a conversation about it. I'll tell you why, because we need to know exactly where, because in the inner, we are also in the inner city. In the inner city, there are also issues of course, I may say maybe we caused the problem by running excessive pressure historically in the inner city, where the high-rise building, where they're supposed to have a pump to pump water from the underground tank going up to the roof tank to supply the building. Number of buildings, they abandoned those systems. Because of what? The municipal pressure over the years was so excessive, pushing water to the top, which unfortunately is not correct. Because what does it do? It put pressure on our system, on our lines, because that pressure is damaging our lines. Whereas ordinarily, we're supposed to supply water on the ground tank for the building, then you pump up to your top reservoir. That's what the bylaw expects from the building owners. So it's something that we've been engaging with various building owners in the inner city about that. Say, please fix your pumps on the ground tank so that you can pump up to your roof reservoir. So I don't know your situation, but we can engage around it. As I said, we are also in the inner city. Nico will come in and deal with the issue relating to the barrier in terms of giving extra information. So the issue around paying for services, please residents, if you've got information, I think we can either work through the water committee, that or the team that's going to be put together. We need that information. We want also to partner with you the same way that you've partnered with City Power around giving us information where you know that wrong things are happening. Because it is the same wrong things that are putting pressure in the system. And we can't only focus on dealing with the infrastructure, we also need to focus on dealing with all these other things that are affecting the system. So the question around when are you going to get water? I'm going to answer this way. There are 3 things that we are doing in the short term. And I can promise you we'll be updating you every step of the way. The first one is the issue that I've indicated that in the next few days, they'll be trying even tomorrow, in the next few days up to mid next week, we'll be looking at whether can we be able to have an approach where we share water whenever we accessibility to water whenever we restore services or whenever we are supplying water, so that those that are in the high-lying area, we find a way of prioritizing them first, rather than the situation where whenever we open, only the low-lying area gets water. It's something that the team have started. In the next few days, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll be knowing whether it's going to work or not, and we can be able to inform residents to say, yes, yes. Allow me to explain to you. I'm telling you what we are working on. We don't want to come back to you with a half information. We want to come back to you with full information. We are not only doing that. Remember when I said I want to explain the system? Every day we are working on making sure that, or on trying to get the system back. What do I mean getting the system back? Upstream, the reservoirs needs to improve levels so that we can be able to get pressure back that can be able to push into the reservoir. So it doesn't mean that we have left that up, because that's how normally this system works. All the other one, the issue of operating differently, focusing on high-lying area first, the issue of Yeovil, those are additional. But the idea of us throttling all the other system to work on getting this system back, Coronationville or Commando back, President Park back, those things are happening every day systematically while we are trying to push the system up. And we will update you as we are working on those things to say, where are we in terms of those interventions? Because those are the interventions that we are trying to get the system back.
Just a block away from me, people are having water, no problem. Give us even 60% at least. Let's have that 2-hour water. Let me wash at least once a week, please.
We've noted your comment. And in all these things that we are doing it for that reason, precisely for that, so that we can be able to get to a point where even those that are in high-lying area, they are getting water. The issue of the old schools and old age home, we're going to make sure that we prioritize that either from the special old age home in terms of the alternative water. Whenever there's no water, we need to prioritize them. And the team, I'm going to be having a conversation with them in terms of prioritizing them. The schools, firstly, the issue of the alternative water, we'll make sure that is there at the schools. However, we have made a commitment in terms of the schools that are within the commando system, the schools that are within the President Park system, of drilling boreholes in those schools if we can be able to get the good yield. That borehole, when we say drilling borehole, we're talking about drilling borehole, putting a purification system as well. It's not if just drill borehole, we take the underground water into the system. So we will look at that and also be able to look at the schools around here so that we can be able to look whether we can be able to do that. Yeah. The tanks will do that, definitely. The tanks will do that. So I've dealt with the issue of leaks. The parks, we've noted that. We are going to action that. And on the issue of the reservoir, the last question, how long is it going to take? It's going to take us about 10 months to fix that reservoir. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be having water. I'll tell you why. Because the reservoir has a bypass. What makes you not to have water currently is because we are not getting the sufficient volume and pressure on that line. It's got nothing to do with the reservoir itself. So if we are getting the pressure and the volume, as we put that reservoir off service, you still get water through bypass. So in that year or 10 months, while we are working on that reservoir, and why it's taking long, it's not only the issue of either dealing with the seals or bandages on the joints, the issue of the structural work that we need to do. We need to be dealing with the pipe work within the reservoir complex, because not only the reservoir, the projects include also dealing with the pipe work within the reservoir complex. Hence, it's going to take that period of about 10 months. I'll ask Nico to deal with the issue around barrier.
Good evening once again. So I think there was a question missed here on the system of reporting. I want to cover that. The fixing of underground leaks and then the reservoir pressure. Let me start with the reservoir pressure and Alexander Park specifically. We will not make false promises either. So we want to be transparent as well. The regulation of Alexander Park is also dependent on the amount of water and the pressure in which it comes in. That allows us to regulate the 5 and 5.5 meters you're talking about. If those change in any way, it's going to impact. And therefore, there's the day-to-day communication with the ward councillors on the levels so that they can pre-warn you in the morning. Number two, our infrastructure is buried. So while we know about leaks that are reported, our response is reactive. We are now investing, and that's part of what the MD was trying to say about water demand management. We are investing heavily in noise loggers and installing them throughout the city. There's 11 noise loggers specific for the Alexander Park area to be installed within the end of October. That will allow us to detect and then fix. Although it's reactive, it's more proactive than reactive. Similarly, in terms of pressure management, these leaks will show if the pressure is not managed. We're investing in pressure management refurbishment as well as a smart controller. The smart controller regulates the pressure on its own without having people to go into those areas. This investment is going to be made throughout the city, but there's one for this specific area. In terms of fault reporting, we also have to change and evolve with the times around us. Customers, the nature of our customers have changed, as you can see from the questions. So our system needs to respond accordingly. We have invested already in commission a system called Field Service Management. It uses the system in the back end called ForceLink. It's a similar system to City Power, but our teams on the ground are already having handheld devices. When they go out, they can log the call, they can take a picture before and after, and also use the tool to access information of where material is. So they don't have to wait, they can go directly to a depot or their depot that has the material, creating efficiency. In the launch of the system, we did have teething problems, which created the issue of closing jobs. We have overcome that, and we are now moving into commissioning this new system in a better way. So far as Beria is concerned, we didn't say Beria doesn't have a problem. We have to approach it in the similar way as we're doing with Alexander Park. Thanks to our engagement with the ward councillor, he encouraged us through participation with the community that we should go the same way. So Beria gets its water from the Stafford, not the Palmeet system. So they're different systems, again, depending on the amount of water that comes in. So we will constantly watch that regulation. The higher the reservoir is, yes, the better that it will flow. But the higher the pressure in the system, in old infrastructure can cause leaks and bursts. So you need your PRVs to work properly to regulate it, much like your blood pressure. I trust I answered the question. Thank you.
Colleagues, we close for questions now, right? The team needs to leave. What we've got agreement on is that in 2 weeks' time, is it credit control or account management? Wait. Hey. I'm chairing. I'm chairing. The billing team will come here to resolve issues. We'll run a poll on the group to see which is the best day, and we will forward that to Joburg Water around that issue. We've got. Everyone has something. I've got questions.
So in terms of the, you're talking about the opening and the closing times? Sure. So let me explain. Let me explain. In terms of utilization, and records show this, usage on the system and losses should be the least at night. So I was telling you about the dependency on the fluctuation of inflow. It is the greatest possibility at night to fill up the reservoir. You need more hours to fill it so that the height gets there to reach the extended areas. But what we will consider is opening up earlier, so at least water gets early. So not between 5 and 6, but possibly earlier. Thank you. Bye-bye.
On water tankers, you just want to cover anything very quickly on water tankers. Okay. So, okay. Colleagues, we've agreed that we will run the poll. Ingrid will run the poll with Farah. We will see what's the best day in 2 weeks' time for us to reconvene. We will engage with the MD and the team about regular reporting, which may not need you, Mr. Mayor, but will need JW to come back and report to us. We'll agree, short meetings, not as long as this, in terms of progress concerning the triangulation that you're trying to do in Gloucester and surroundings, the interventions in Gloucester, yes, I covered Gloucester, you listen. In not Bez Valley, the other place you come from Beryl Street and so on, progress in terms of that, but also regular updates on the development concerning AP. Right? So we thank you for attending this meeting. We would like other opportunities in future. We've submitted our Region F document, which we want to engage with you in future around. So thank you for your time. And, sorry? Oh, you wanted to say something? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Good night, people.